Hey guys, and welcome to episode 3 of the Cardinals Nation 24/7 podcast. I'm your host Chris Lollis, and with me as always is the living legend Larry Cox. How you doing tonight, Larry?
What's going on, Chris? What do you know, buddy?
Well, opening day is came and gone, but I kind of want to talk about the excitement of opening day. We didn't put out an episode last week, but opening day was a very special one this year. We got to see, of course, the Clydesdales and all the legends coming back, but I personally had to miss some of it. Caught it on the radio and didn't get to catch it on Bally Sports, but going back and watching some of the replays of it, it was awesome to see guys like Joe Torre and Big Mac coming back. Tim McCarver was able to, make it too. And it was just overall between that and seeing the tribute for Yachty and Wayno and Albert, it was a pretty moving ceremony. What say you on that situation?
Yeah, I didn't get to watch it live, like you said, and I went back and watched it on Bally. I always tell all my friends, all my baseball friends, that no matter what else you say, like or hate the Cardinals as a fan outside of the St. Louis Nation, we have the best opening day by far. The kids are out of school, the parade all downtown, leads to the stadium, everything's great. And then you throw in all the history of all the past stars and the Hall of Famers and the Ring of Famers, whatever you want to call them, around the wall, I guess. And it just makes it so much even sweeter. And then the fact that they always bring all the players in by the trucks or cars. However, in the past they've had Mustangs, they've had Ford trucks, have you? But even just the Hall of Famers, that just always, to me, they show the reverence for those players of the past and the respect that they have coming to them. But even to see Torrey and Big Mac there, that's a big thing as well. But then you miss, Brock not being there or Gibby not being there. That's kind of the biggest shock for me, I think, coming this year. But then you see Pujols come back. It's kind of a, like I said before, I was always the voice of reason. I always said with you, the nostalgia part, I get it, but the player standpoint, I don't see him adding to this team. But yeah, him being their opening day, that was huge for me as well. It brought back, those memories of the 10 years he was here, that that man stepped in that batter's box and he was truly the machine. So it was a lot there, man.
Yeah, I think, and to that point, I think Albert, I hate to say it's just because of Albert, but I think that played into a lot of why Big Mac, came. I know he's been tied up for years when he was coaching, and same with Joe Torre having a job in baseball, that they're not always readily available. Obviously, like La Russa, he's managing, so he's not going to be able to come. But when you're missing guys like Brock and Gibson, and, it's important for those guys to try to make an effort to come, because the fans eat that up, the players eat that up, and especially this year when you've got, now I know Wainwright hasn't said officially this is his last year, but potentially his last year, and Yachty and Pujols, what they meant to the Cardinals. This was, an important one to kind of give them the last opening day, send off. So I thought that was pretty awesome. Ozzie throwing, and Willie with the first pitch was cool. You get to thinking, some of these guys like Whitey, I don't know how many years he's got left. He's up there in 90, and McCarver, he's up there in age too. But it was nice to see, and brought a whole different level of excitement. But the tribute video, I was in my car listening to it, and I know we were kind of all swapping messages. Some of us were able to watch it. Some of us were, listening. And I think all of us can agree we were either getting goosebumps or tears in our eyes, because it was just, that's an emotional thing that, I'm 41 years old, and these guys have played almost half my life that I've got to watch, in a Cardinal uniform. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah. The thing is that we always look at it as, the voting, the Hall of Fame voting's coming up. Like we always talk about, they're going to add one name this year. Those guys replace those guys as they do leave, the baseball Hall of Fame heaven for the true heaven. They, we get to replace them again this year. Now you got the Rollins, and this year we'll add in, either Renteria or one of the other guys that I'm, again, Matt Morris fan here. So there's that. But those guys do start coming in and they do come back. And that's the biggest thing is, Roland was not active in years past since he left the Cardinals because the way he did leave. But then when they put him in the Hall of Fame, now he's more active with the team and he's around. And that's the good thing about it. It's nice seeing those guys. And like I said, because I think the Cardinals fandom, it bridges such a huge generational thing. Like you said, your grandfather, he's a huge Cardinals fan and you're a Cardinals fan and your son's, well, let's not go there. Anyway, but, so, and that's the biggest thing about it is that you have young or old, those you can relate because, you do have the stories of Gibby or those guys that, back in the day versus the new guys that now like a roll into those guys. You've seen those play. You probably never seen Gibby throw a baseball before, but yet you knew he's a Cardinal Hall of Famer. And now, you're seeing the guys that you did see play like Renteria or those guys being added to that wall of fame. That's huge for you. Even for me now, it just makes me feel old. So I look forward to the Hall of Fame stuff. And like I said, I always like the intro, and there's nothing like seeing those Clydesdales come through that gate. And, it just, spring is here and summer's right behind it. And that's the best thing about it. I think the seasonal change and everything coming because, the gray of football and all that crap is over. And, and now let's move on to real sport.
For sure. And, you kind of touched on it when you said Wall of Fame. What about the new look of the left field wall out there where I personally think it looks more billboardish than it does a mural, they've got everybody's numbers are still up there. They do have Jackie Robinson's, his image with his number and it's in Dodger blue. Some people in our group and elsewhere on social media kind of have a little bit of a problem with that. To me, number 42, it's retired. It was out there before anyway. I don't mind the mural. I mean, he was a Dodger, but he's, he is who he is, so I don't have a problem with that. I just think the overall look of it at first glance, it'll take some getting used to. I think some of it's just because we're used to what we've been seeing. It looked a little billboardish that, but at the end of the day, I think we'll get used to it. But what say you on your opinion on that?
I like you said, I think it's just a little bit of getting used to it. It's a different look for us. We're used to seeing the arch in the middle and then the picture of Ozzie doing the backflip and those kind of things across there. And that's familiarity with us, but we got to realize that baseball is an ever changing business and it is going to have a new look every once in a while to capture those new fans. And I think the Jackie Robinson is long overdue for all stadiums. I think that should have been put on there a long time ago. That black eye that baseball had for a long time of excluding those players was wrong, and we know it now. But we can't apply the logic of 2022 to the back in the 1930s and 40s because it's just a different way they thought. And that's a history lesson, I guess you could say. But Jackie Robinson made it possible for all the great players we've seen that step forward through those gates now. And fortunately for us, we have the Negro League Hall of Fame right across the street. So that's another thing that adds that whole look for us as well. So that's a great thing as well. So.
Yeah, and they've talked about with Jackie Robinson Day will be coming up here in the next week or so, I believe. But they've said that each team this year, in years past, we've all worn number 42, but this year the 42 will be in Dodger blue on every team's uniform. Again, some of the fans out there are like, oh my God, why would it be blue? Why would it not be Dodger blue? And that doesn't take away from a Cardinal uniform to see that number 42 in blue. So it kind of boggles the mind. I think some people get off on complaining about the smallest detail, but yeah, that's something they're going to do. And there is the Roberto Clemente, each of the active players that are out there are getting to sport the emblem on their hat, which obviously we've got Pujols that's a winner, Yachty and Waino. So that's pretty awesome too.
Yeah, I like that we're celebrating those guys. I've always wondered why when these guys win these achievement awards, I guess what you'd call them for just who they are being a person, why we belittle those. These guys win these awards and you never hear anything about them. They have award ceremony, that's over, it's done, go away. And like you said, now having that on the back of their hat, I think that's huge. I think it's a big deal. because it kind of sets an example for the younger players in the league that, look, whether you like Albert leaving or how it happened, he never stopped caring about St. Louis and the young children in the St. Louis area. Excuse me, those Down syndrome children that he's adopted, he's taken as his own. Is the Pujols Foundation raises millions of dollars, and the St. Louis Cardinals have still partaked in that every year since he left. So it's not like they had a hard feeling toward him. So I don't understand why fans can't get over it and move on, and understand baseball is a business first and foremost. These guys make a living at it, like we've always talked about before. It's their job. They get up in the morning and they go to work, just like you or I do or anybody else. They just happen to play a baseball game. That's the difference. And so why not give them the honors and the dues that they have coming to them? If you want a, Clemente Award, you should be able to celebrate that every day, and be recognized for the person that you are.
Yeah. I haven't really done the research on hearing about this, so I don't know when it is going to take place. But apparently baseball is going to be doing a lot like what the NBA is doing with having advertisements on the uniform. And, obviously when a couple years back when we've switched to having the Nike swoosh on the uniforms, a lot of people throw a fit about that. I don't really see it taking away from the beauty of the birds on the bat. Again, like you said, it is a business. This is one of the ways they're going to be making money, but I don't think it's going to stop there. I think I've also read where there could be some logos on the helmet. And as long as it's not tobacco, alcohol, or gambling related, I think any business is, can take up on getting that done. So what are your thoughts on that? Do you think
which is kind of ironic. It's kind of ironic that you can't have gambling on your helmet, but our company, our sports brass is Bally Sports. I mean,
right.
That's kind of weird. But even like the people that are throwing a fit about the Nike emblem, how many years do we have Majestic on the bottom of the logo? Just because you couldn't see it every screenshot, I get it.
Right.
And back in the day, you had to tuck your shirt in. That was the rules. It had to be tucked. And that was just part of the the look. But I've watched Japanese and Korean baseball. I hope we don't get to that level where they're, the the bail bondsman's helmet on the back of your helmet or something, and it's just, I think it cheapens the game. But if you've watched, some of their sports, though, they're successful because they do market a lot better than we do. And I think that's the biggest problem with the downfall of our sport, as per se, the marketing people, not us, because we love the sport. You have to attract those younger generations somehow. So they try to make it as fun or entertaining as they can. It's just like, a couple of years ago, we as moderators, our group, we were all arguing over about, the show. We couldn't get it on Xbox, and I went out when it finally crossed over and I bought it. And guess what? I hardly ever play it. And the reason is because after you play it a couple times, it's not that much fun. It's just not. I'm sorry. And so I can understand where, these kids are coming to the game and they're looking at it and they're going, well, the hard part about baseball, I think, is it's not a game you can play like one-on-one. It's not like you can go out and play it. So it takes at least, 5 or 6 people to play the game, as even a pickup game. But I think they have to market it somehow. So they have to put in advertising in order to have fun commercials, or, if they have to put a little bear logo dancing, I don't care, whatever. But I think they got to do something. I mean, a couple of years ago, I remember when they put the scrolling marquee behind the batter, and to us, we're sitting there going, how does this not distract the pitcher? Yeah. It's called technology, dummy. The pitcher doesn't see it. It doesn't move when the pitcher is pitching. But, and so, and that was the thing, it was huge. And even when we moved from old Busch Stadium to new Busch Stadium, or 2 to 3, whichever you prefer to call it, it became this whole, oh my God, this is more of a marketing thing. This is an old school baseball. At the time, all the other ballparks were like, they were going back to like the Camden Yards, and those places were trying to go to the retro look. And here we are, go modern. And it was just kind of a shock to the system, I guess, because we thought we would go, back to that as well. But it's not like Busch Stadium has a lot of backdrop they could use for like warehouses or any of that nature. So I don't know what they thought, but I think change every once in a while, as far as the stadium, the logos, that kind of stuff. I think it makes it kind of cool. Just like when they put the nicknames on the back of the jerseys, makes for a fun day. It's a day.
Right.
Don't take it so serious. It's still just a game.
Right. That's like, when I called my grandpa and was telling him about it, and he's like, oh, great. The Cardinals jerseys are going to look like the Bassmasters. They're going to have a logo for the fish and lure that exists. And I said, it's not going to go that extreme. But, like you said, some people, obviously, I think we're the same. We're old school on a lot of things. But baseball, it can't stay completely old school. I mean, the DH coming here, I think, is a good thing, and for a long time, I was one of those that was totally, I'm into the strategic small ball. Nobody plays small ball anymore. Pitchers getting hurt every time they come to the plate. It was long overdue for the National League to get it. It does let guys like a Pujols extend their careers out further that, who Encarnacion and Nelson Cruz, some of those guys, they can still knock the cover off the ball, and so I don't have a problem with it. And again, like I was talking to my grandpa about some of the things, he'll throw a fit. But I said, like when the 4-pitch ball, we don't have to throw 4 pitches, we point to first base. Who misses that? How often would a ball pass, on a 4th pitch or something? It just rarely happen. So I think some of that change is, it's good. And then down in the minors, they're experimenting with the pitch clock and the bigger bases. And I think eventually, once they get that kind of the quirks worked out, I think that'll be good. But one thing I'll ask you your opinion on, and I really enjoy it, is the replay and the umpires addressing it to the crowd instead of having to put the headsets on. We're all like watching the Jumbotron or whatever. We all think we know what the outcome is. It is a little bit like football when the refs do announce it, but I like it. What do you like? Do you like it or not?
I like that. I like that they announce now the outcome instead of just going like this and it's over. But I've always said before, why do they have to stop the game? They have these guys sitting in New York watching the game. They have a replay. The guy says, we're going to replay this. They push a button. They put it in his ear and say, he's safe. Let's move on. Why do they stop the game at all? For the life of me, I don't get it. Why don't they have like another traveling umpire, a 5th man of the team or something at the stadium upstairs sitting that is not from the home team? You know what I mean? Because the umpires aren't from that area anyway.
Right.
And so why isn't he just watching a TV screen going, oh, wait a minute. Sorry, Jim. You blew the call at first, And the other thing is, I think is, if you're going to do replays, why not, I don't know, tick mark or something of some nature and say, that guy missed a call. He missed a call. We had to review it because you made a bad call. So if we're really, truly wanting to speed up the game, why do we make the umpires accountable for their mistakes? I mean, I know they do to some extent because like the All-Star game and the World Series, those guys are graded and all that.
Right.
But Joe West was still there for years and years and never got anything right.
Yeah.
And so, and that's the biggest thing. I think that they ought to be held accountable for that. But I do like the system this year. I think it's vastly improved the last year. And the other thing I like this year too is not having to body search and cavity search the pitcher when they come off the field. Just hey, let me see your hands. And I guess they took special training over the offseason on just how to see like resins on their fingers versus an oil substance or a Vaseline or whatever else they used or a fingernail file or whatever. But yeah. And I like that too because, we all remember the Max Scherzer thing. He came off, he's stripping down, taking his clothes off in the middle of the game. It's like, wait a minute, this is a family game, dude. Chill.
It would be hard though if you're a pitcher that you knew you didn't use shit like that, and they were doing that. It'd be hard not to be like, go ahead and strip search me, just to be a smart ass, But like you said, it has sped things up with not having to go to that extreme. And I would like to think that baseball cracked down on it hard enough to where it did scare some people not to be using it, but. You can flip over to
Rondon just got popped again. I mean, Rondon just got popped for suspended for PEDs.
Yeah, that's where I was going. Was we were kind of all wondering at the end of last season why the Cardinals kind of let him go, because it was like coming off the bench, he was a pretty good consistent bat and could play several positions. And not that happened during that time, but it's like, okay, well, you go out and he's going to serve an 80-game suspension, and he wasn't alone. That Rodriguez pitcher, he's one that's on. Yeah, that's twice for him. So, I mean, some of these guys, I don't think they learn their lessons. Some of them, I think, giving them the benefit of the doubt, don't always know what they're taking, but they know they shouldn't be taking it.
It's so, and that's one of the things I've read, because when all this PED stuff really started taking off, there's a list. And anytime you take any kind of medication that you may be leery of, you call the commissioner's office and you ask them. Yeah. You go to the front office, but then again, look what happened to the Angels. Their training staff was giving them illegal drugs, and that's how the Skaggs kid died.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you just don't – I don't know. Like I said, I mean, for years – a couple of years back, there was some complaining about the training staff and the way the Cardinals were dealing with injuries, and we got rid of that staff, if you remember right, a couple of years ago. Because these guys said, hey, the staff was favoring for the team versus the player. They were telling the players, "Oh, you're fine. It's just tendonitis," and in fact, it was torn labrums or whatever. And so, you just don't know who to trust or anything. And like you said, we've said since we started tonight is it's a business, and there are big dollars. And that was the thing with like the PEDs. I understood that more than a lot of people should have, I guess. And the reason is, if you're that kid and you're 27 or 28 years old and you're at AAA, somebody says, "Hey, take this pill. Next year you'll be a starting center fielder for the Yankees." You damn right I'm taking it. Pay me, And that's the thing right there. And if you get caught, so what? I'm out. But you know what? How many millions did I make before they got caught? That's the thing. But it's still ethical, or it's your name that's out there, and now you're forever linked to being a cheater or whatever. But Robinson Cano still has a job, and so does, So, these guys still keep bringing, and that's my problem with it is they keep bringing these guys back. It's a no. Oh, wait a minute, we re-signed him. That's okay.
All right.
And that's my biggest thing with it. So, ESPN still got A-Rod.
Yeah, I was going to say, and then you got Ortiz in the Hall of Fame, but that's
don't even get me started there.
I know that's a discussion for another time, but circling to some good news, and we talked about the opening day ceremonies being great, but the Cardinals really got off on the right foot in game one, 9-0, spanked the Pirates, and I know what a lot of people are thinking. You have to against Pittsburgh, and we agree with
Pirates.
It's just the Pirates. But, I hate to throw this line out there, but believe it or not, they are a major league team, and these wins count just as much as if we were to beat the Dodgers. But these are games that the Cardinals do need to be taking care of business with. But to jump out like they did, obviously Wainwright pitching was lights out, 6 innings of no-run baseball. Like, what, he give up 5 hits? He looked sharp, and the bullpen come in and they did their job. It was really impressive. But not to take away from his performance, the Cardinals were putting up a lot of runs too, and none more than Tyler O'Neill, who 5 RBIs for the game. He's on track to. I'm not even going to tally all that up, but he's raking that. Yeah, that's awesome. You got Goldschmidt, who walked 4 times. Which. Patience with him, that's a good thing. I don't know if that was the game where DeYoung didn't get a hit the first game, but right. DeYoung's been coming around. That game one, it was just pedal to the metal, enjoyed it, 9-0. What are your takeaways from that game? I mean, were you surprised to see Wainwright go out and dominate the way that he did, and were you surprised about the offense coming in like they were?
The biggest thing about Wainwright's, and again, I realize they're still a professional team. They're still the Pirates. They had a lot of young kids that bid on that off-speed stuff, and that's the thing that Wainwright's turned himself into. He's actually a pitcher now, not just somebody throwing the ball hard. He's got more than just old Uncle Charlie throwing out there too. And so the thing is that you got all those kids that were anxious. There was an opening day for them too. for several of those players. And then you're in St. Louis to top it off. On top of that, you got all that going on the other side of the field.
Yeah.
That's huge. That's a lot of pressure on those kids. So, but taking all that away, Wainwright pitched a hell of a game. I read where he's like the third oldest player of all time to opening day to have 6 scoreless innings up to, so that's pretty amazing too. So you know what? He'll be back next year so he can be the number 1. I don't know. Oldest, I don't know. But all in all, I took a lot away from the game, the parts that I was able to see because I did go someplace to watch it. But I'll tell you the kid that really has surprised me this year is Paul DeYoung. His swing looks back to like it was, and not to take anything away from any of our other moderators, but Boyd and I had been talking about this for a couple of years. It looked like he was injured. It looked like there's something wrong with he's pulling off the ball or something, like a rib injury or something. But this year it looks like he's got a nice swing to the ball and he's not jumping at it. It's a short swing. And then we seen it in game 2, of course, he did hit the home run, but I mean, Town had a hell of a game. O'Neill, like he said, you can't take away just the RBIs alone. And then, of course, Arenado got in on the deal as well. And then even the 4 walks, like you said, Goldschmidt batting in the second spot, that's his job. Get on base, however you get on base. And he did it, and that's what he's got to do. But I still, seeing Albert come to the plate. I'm sorry. I 0 for 4 day, I don't care.
0 for 5.
0 for 5, excuse me.
Yeah.
But still, the fact that he was there and the fact that, you know what, they didn't take him lightly. I mean, they still, you could tell.
And he did reach base, and hit the ball hard considering he was facing a right-hander. And they said, we're going to worry about the matchups later on. Opening day, we can make an exception. But it was nice to see him making the contact that he made. And, the running joke with all of us is, man, between him and Molina, who wins a foot race, But
I think I can outrun both of them.
Oh, I don't doubt it a bit.
And I've got knee injuries too.
It's crazy because those two guys, if it's not going to happen often, but on games where they're both in the lineup, man, that clogs the base paths up, and
that's the bad thing. Like I said before, was if Albert's hitting in front of Molina, that's it. Just hit it to center field. It's still a double play. The best thing I took away from it was actually is even the outs were hard hit ball outs, right. And it looked like to me a different hitting approach. And I don't want to crown anybody this early in the year, but maybe Jeff Alberts was right all along that maybe it wasn't Jeff Alberts was the problem. Maybe it was our former manager, but it looks like the approach of the plate is different from spring training to now, even that these guys seem like they have a shorter swing, not that big loop, or they're not trying to hit the, like I always said, the baiter, the empty bases 3-run homer. Right. Him and Wong always had that theory. But even then, I mean, those guys are dropping the balls in front of the outfield. They're hitting the gaps. They're hitting the lines. I mean, that overall, I think we did it really well. And I know, again, it's only the Pirates. I get it. But what's the difference? I mean, again, like you said, if I'm playing the Dodgers or the Pittsburgh Pirates, what's the difference? A win's a win. And all I got to do is get in the playoffs. So if it means I got to roll up the wins against the Pittsburgh Pirates, so be it. They're in our league. I can't help that. Right. Our division.
Yeah, and there's a couple of things I'll touch on there. Talking about like Pujols' stance, he wasn't as crouched, as normal. He was more like freestanding, and you see that a little bit with DeYoung too. That he talked about in interviews that he really was in his own head a lot last season. And once you get in that funk, and kind of like Matt Carpenter, that I don't think Carpenter ever recovered from. When you struggle, I think it is sometimes you do get in your own head where you're pressing so hard that even if you are battling injuries, which is probably a lot of it too, you start thinking, damn, am I ever going to get a hit? Then you're up there like, I've got to get a hit, which they're Major League Baseball players. You've got to have that want to, I think I can, I know I can attitude. But I do think that DeYoung, learned from the struggles of last season, and whatever he did this offseason is, look to be working so far. So, between those two, it's cool to see. But just the overall lineup, Edman hit a home run. Arenado's leading the league in RBIs. Goldschmidt taking professional bats like he does. Carlson had several hits today. That lineup, when they're clicking, it could be a little more dangerous than what I even give them credit for.
Even the defense across the board. I mean, we made some. I mean, DeYoung made several nice plays in the hole, strong throws. That's the one thing we always say with him. Even if his bat wasn't there, he's a solid defender. He's an all-star defender. Then you had the game where Bader had the nice sliding dive for the ball, and then you had another one by O'Neill that he had to run back on the wall, catch that one, and of course Arenado just a human highlight reel there, and and that's the biggest thing. You can't take away defense. I mean, it doesn't take days off. That's the thing I like about the fact that we build a team. Or I'm sorry, I'll take that back. There's no we. That Mozeliak has built a team of all-stars just with gold gloves, and that's the biggest thing. You can't dismiss that in any way.
Well, takeaways from that second game too. Michaelis, starting, and really he hasn't had much major league pitching in the last couple of years with being hurt, but got up to 77 pitches and gets pulled. He was able to get himself out of the jams that he was putting himself in, which we're sitting here watching the game with Tina, and she's like, damn, he doesn't have his stuff today. And I said, on the plus side, he's able to get out of it, which you hate to give up 2 runs to Pittsburgh, but nonetheless, he was getting out of it. And I said, so I like to see that. The guys that they put in, Helsley's had a couple nice outings, so he's holding it down. And the guys like Nick Whitgren that they brought in, it's all right. Cody Whitley, come in and got the win. I think that bullpen is going to help out. There's some names on there that some Cardinal fans aren't familiar with, but you're looking at they've already announced that Jordan Hicks is going to be a starter, so he's out of the bullpen. Alex Reyes being injured, he's out of the bullpen, so you're really going to have to rely on these guys like Verhagen, Aaron Brooks, Whitgren. You're going to have to rely on them as well as your Genesis Cabrera and Helsley and Gallegos. So it was nice to see. The bullpen's been getting it done lately.
Yeah, Brooks made his debut today, I believe.
Right, he did.
And he gave up the home run, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
And but that was his major league start. I mean, and that was in all. I mean, he looked pretty decent from what I've seen of the highlights. I can't really say because like I said, I didn't get to see the whole game. But just listening on the radio, he sounded like he's pretty good. And the other kid that came in and replaced him sounded like he was doing well too. But I think the biggest thing with the takeaways with Michaelis was he was keeping the ball down. Michaelis has always been around the strike zone. The problem is sometimes he ventures too far into the strike zone, and that's what's gotten him lit up. And so, with him, if he keeps the ball down and away, they're going to ground out, and that's the biggest thing with our defense that's going to happen. Even the lazy fly balls, we know that outfield's tracking them down. So,
right. And not to just go from game 2 to game 3, but how you were talking about Michaelis keeping the ball, down. A problem that Steven Matz had today was keeping the ball up. And, come in, his first couple innings were great, lights out, and then, gets in that jam, then the grand slam. I was talking to a few people, and they're like, we should have pulled him right after that. And I'm like, okay, you don't have guys warming up at that point, and the base is loaded. He gives up the grand slam. You give him a few more batters. To me, given a couple more hits, then you kind of pull the rug and be like, we can't let this get out of hand. Not blaming this on Schumacher, but obviously Schumacher has been taking over for Ollie Marmol, who's been sick the last couple games. I think it comes down to you want to still have the confidence in Match. You don't want to go out there and just be like, you screwed the pooch, I'm yanking you. But at the same time, you got to address that stuff fairly early because obviously, he gave up a couple more runs, and then by then it's a stretch to come back. Even if it's the Pittsburgh Pirates, that's a mountain to climb to come back on that.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, the first 2 innings, from what I've seen, the ball was down. He was getting the ground balls. He was very effective, and that's the pitcher we want. That's the guy they went out and got. That's the reason they brought him in. But the problem I will say again and again and again, is that with Yachty, it seems like that as he's gotten older, the framing, the not moving so well, it's like he sets up in the same spot. I mean, when we knew, as listening to the game, I was listening and I kept saying, they're attacking first pitch. Why are we throwing strikes every time?
Right.
4 straight hitters, they threw first pitch strikes and they all swung. So why, as a veteran catcher, is he not, oh, wait a minute, I better set up outside or move inside a little bit or maybe get the ball up or down or whatever. But after watching games, and you and I have talked about this at length, and you've in the past said you don't agree with me, but and I've seen it because I don't think I know at his age he doesn't move quite as well. I get it. He's still a Major League Baseball player, and I'm not. I get that too, and he's a future Hall of Famer. I get that. But at some point, you have to realize we're not bouncing balls in the dirt no more, because Yachty can't get those. Even the one went to the screen today, rolled out. He didn't realize the guy was running from third.
Right.
And the guy scored on a wild pitch that probably in years past, Yachty would have got him.
Yeah.
But he just doesn't move as well. And it's not, that's just old man time catching up with you. That's not, I'm not trying to be negative toward Yachty in any way. But the fact is that if you watch, it seems like to me, Yachty sits up in the same position a lot of times and hardly moves. And to me, I think that hurts our pitching staff a lot more than people realize, because you are grooving pitches. If I know you're going to hit the inside corner every time, I'm going to step back 3 inches in the batter's box and I'm going to pull that sucker down the third baseline. Thank God there's that guy stand third base and get most of those for us.
Right.
But again, it's, who am I to say, I'm not watching film with these guys. This is just my opinion, but I kind of want to see what Matz does maybe with, our backup catcher. Cause I'm not gonna say his name because you'll laugh at me again. I'm tired of being laughed at. And so, and so that's the thing, maybe that's a difference. Just like I said, last year, you and I agreed. We seen a different Carlos Martinez between the two catchers.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing. I think it has hurt some of our pitchers. I'm sorry. I love the guy. I'm glad he's here. But I'm one of the guys, and I think it's time, that a younger catcher needs to be behind the plate.
Not that this has anything to do with the struggles of, giving up the runs today, but, going back to how we were talking about having the old school attitude, I know Molina, he is that old school type of catcher. I find it a little odd that every other team is, doing the whole catchers with the system, with the watch to the pitcher on what to throw. And the Cardinals ain't there yet. Yachty's kind of like, if it's not broke, I'm not fixing it. I'm going to do it my way. At the same time, like you said, some of the places he sets up for, and he still frames a pitch decent, but if he's slapping home plate, it's going to be in the dirt. I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out. So, there was, going back to the Michaelis start, there was a couple of pitches that were strikes called balls that I think would have really saved Michaelis the pitch count and would have got him out of an inning where he probably would have went a little longer than what he did. So I'm not going to blame everything on Yachty, but there are some things, like you said, that you can pinpoint. Some of it's Father Time and the age, but some of it I think may be just a stubbornness of every other team is kind of tinkering with ways to improve, and he's just like, I'm just going to go with what I know. And I don't mind that because he is Yachty or Molina. He's damn good. But, it's hard to say if that's going to be an issue going forward, or, if Kisner gets more starts, because the Cardinals have talked about that too, wanting to give him, just to rest Molina. And I think he's all right with that. I don't think he's going to try to buck the system on it. He might a little bit, but he needs to take a few days here and there.
Well, like today, they on the radio, they said that the wild pitch, Yachty caught it with his hand, not his glove. He couldn't get his glove over. He got his hand. He stuck
his hand out there, and that was just, why are you doing that?
And so that's the thing. I mean, and again, there's nobody here that's questioning Yachty or Molina's manhood or his ability, because he gave up part of it for the team, But but again, at some age, I realize there's things I can no longer do. And I'll bet you Herrera has a watch.
Yeah, I'm sure he does. And, I'd be interested to see if Kisner, goes that route. I think.
I was wondering that too.
And that probably comes with territory too, of having some of the foreigners on the ball club that it might be hard to communicate with, where, you see them, go to their hat, and pull out the card. Are we going with this set of, pitches? That would be a real good way for guys that don't speak English that well to communicate and, make sure you are on the right page.
You can just Google it, right? Your language as you're going to first base and talk to the guy. Yeah.
You could do that. And
so, and that's, like you said, again, I think it's the whole changing of the guard, the changing of technology, because for years, you couldn't have anything in the dugout. You could have cell phones. You could have nothing in the dugout. And now they've got the iPads. They're going to go with the watches. And a lot of this stems just from the Astros getting away with cheating. But, the funny thing about it was I had read just yesterday, one of the other major league players from another team said, if the Astros were the only team doing it, they would have been suspended a lot more.
Right.
The fact was they're the only team that got caught. Yeah. That's the biggest thing. And so Major League Baseball is smart enough not to bite its own hand that feeds it. True. And so they're not going to call out 25 teams for cheating and put a black eye on baseball. And right. So that's the thing. I think they have to do something. But again, here's my only question is, my bank gets hacked. So you're going to see all these catchers behind the plate going, wait a minute, Domino's is delivering. What the heck's going on here? They're going to start flashing signs to the thing. But right. I don't know. Like I said, it's kind of been a weird week all the way around for everything this week with baseball. I seen where like the young lady was the first minor league manager this week. That's pretty impressive. Everything going on, changes in baseball, like we said, and she got her win on her debut. That was really cool as well. So, and it's been a rough week around our house as well. So, for those of you who don't know, the passing of my mother this week, her long battle with cancer, and so it's been kind of a difficult week for us around the Cox household as well. A lot going on. But I know, even like Chris has been under the weather, and several of our moderators have been under the weather as well. But so the start of baseball, it's kind of like with me, it takes my mind off of everything else going on. So this is a good distraction for me right now with everything going on. And of course I get to sit here and talk to my buddy Chris. So that's the other thing. So we only live about 8 hours apart or 7 hours apart. So we don't get to see each other, but once a year, maybe. So
right. That's one more reason we look forward to having all these podcasts is, we bullshit, in our group message constantly, but this is like us going to a bar and hanging out. We don't get a chance to do that like a lot of people. So this is a good thing. And, I send my condolences to you about your mom. I know that's a rough thing, and, prayers and thoughts for your family. And I'm like you, this is baseball is our getaway for things, recently Tina had her hip surgery, and so we've kind of been confined to the house. Not that we go out and do a lot anyway, but it takes your mind off of the struggles, going on. And, for baseball to be back, it's exciting, but it's also that distraction that we all need from a hard day of work or being under the weather, or, just any struggles that we're dealing with. Baseball, it means more than just the wins and loss column. A lot of fans are freaking out. Obviously, the ones that don't know, we are recording this on Sunday night. So currently the Cardinals are 2-1 when we put this out tomorrow. Hopefully it'll be before the game, but already the sky is falling because we're 2-1 to the Pirates. And if you look at it, I mean, the Rockies beat the Dodgers 2 games, and
the Dodgers are done. Quit.
Right. Yeah. Might as well throw in the towel. And, I kind of did this on purpose, but on our fantasy league, I've got Milwaukee's top 2 pitchers on my team. So I'm thinking if they do well, my fantasy team does well. If they blow it up, well, in real life, I'm yay, So it's kind of a win-win.
You're trying to jinx them.
Pretty much. But they both, shit the bed against the Cubs, where these are 2 Cy Young, pitchers go out, and the Chicago Cubs, who do they have that's getting it done? Well, they took care of business against the best 2 pitchers on the Brewers team. So anything can happen. It is still early. I'm not ready to hit panic mode just yet or anything, but the final score today, 9-4, it was not pretty. Matt's, I'm not ready to say that was a bad move. I still think that's an A- move. I think some of us going to get used to pitching to Molina. Molina does bring out the best in some guys, but I think maybe for Matt's, the pressure of this is my first start. I've got to go out and do well. And then he was just hanging some pitches, up in the zone that, Pittsburgh got on a roll. And like I said, it is what it is. But 9-4, not really a good look for today.
But Matt's has battled injuries too in his past, and he's missed substantial time. But he's had, I mean, unfortunately, he was in the pond scum area, so being with the Mets, and we know how that pitching staff goes up and down, up and down, up and down.
Yeah.
So, and how many different catches did he have when he was in New York? That's the other thing. So, to get a system and get in a groove, and this is the reason I think a lot of times, like you said, you could pull him after giving up the grand slam, and what do you do to his confidence? And even as a manager, you're saying, hey, I have no faith in you to get the next guy out. And the biggest thing is, they'll all tell you, that you have to shake off that last pitch, no matter what the result is. If you struck the guy out, Wainwright's still not celebrating striking out Beltran. That's over. That's in the past. Let's move forward. We as fans, we still celebrate it, but Waino it was just another out on the way to the World Series. And that's the biggest thing that a fan has to realize, that these guys don't live and die by every pitch like you do or I do. And they have to have a short memory, and they have to move forward because their job depends on it, their livelihood. So for Skip to not go out and pull him, that was probably just say, hey, I still have faith in you. You're all right. Let's just shake it off. And then again, he gave up another run, but hey, gave up 2 more actually. But
right. Yeah.
But the problem is, again, like you said, how much pressure's on that kid that, the Mets, I don't know if you've watched a lot of Mets games the last couple of years, they don't have a solid fan base like they used to. They're not the Yankees. If they're winning, then they're packed. St. Louis on a Tuesday night in May, they've got 42,000 people.
Well, he did better once he went over to Toronto, is when he really, started figuring things out. So, I mean, I think coming here, he can take some of what he learned in Toronto, but it's one outing. I'm not ready to throw the book at him and say I'm done with it. And like you said, obviously you don't have anybody warming up right after the grand slam. I would probably not have waited for a second guy to get on base to have went ahead and pulled him. Only reason I say that is we have the extended bullpens that we aren't going to be hurting by, going to the well, too many times. You had enough arms there. You could have probably put somebody in to stop the bleeding, but they wanted to give him a chance, see if he could, work out of a jam, kind of like what Michaelis did. And I don't see a problem with it. Just kind of you got to live and learn.
And that's the thing, is you have to see you don't know him either. What's his response? Maybe that was a wake-up call. He bears down. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe he folds like a cheap tent, Yeah. But the other thing is, in our group, they, for some reason, I don't know the logic, I guess, of the posting of some of these people that they put, well, I don't understand why somebody isn't warming up. Why is it? The guy was in, the 3rd inning. You're not going to have somebody on standby warming up. Oh, let's throw a lefty and a righty in the bullpen and get him warming up as the guy enters the 3rd inning. And that, to me, it's like you've never watched a ball game before.
I only do that in the playoffs when you know that you can.
Exactly.
You got to have somebody, fresh in case of blow up.
There should always be somebody up the bullpen in the playoffs.
But not in the 3rd game of the season. You're not going that route, even with the expanded bullpen.
Ask Atlanta. Ask Atlanta what happened to them in the 1st inning against what happened to them? They got slaughtered in the 1st inning against the game.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the difference is, and I get that, but again, it's a long season. This is one of, whatever they're going to play this year, 162, I guess they say they're going to try.
Yeah.
We're going to be playing into December, but hey, there's going to be baseball on my birthday, November 17th. Hey, that'll work.
There you go.
So I'll be in St. Louis in the snow on my birthday, watch the World Series. There you go. That's winter. And that's the biggest thing is that you have to see what you have in a player. You can't just cast them aside. How many people want to get rid of Bader 2 years ago? This guy is awful. Let's get rid of him. Well, look at O'Neill. When he was swinging at that crap in the dirt and that low and away in the other batter's box, him and Grichuk, let's get rid of these guys. They're bums. Mozeliak, you fire him. Now these guys, two-time Gold Glove winner. He's leading the league in RBIs. But hey, we would have got rid of him for a case of baseballs 2 years ago.
That's where it always cracks me up. And it's funny because we in the past, we've been labeled Mo apologists till we're blue in the face on things. And we do try to look at the bright side of things. but we're realists too. We're not just, optimists that can't see the negative. We just don't dwell on the negative. If you're hanging on every pitch or every loss, if your life is that locked into, hey, we lost today, so it's fire Matz, fire Dickerson, Pujols was 0 for 5. That was a bad move. Like, if you start nitpicking, because we're not going to have anybody on a team that you're going to like. I mean, Arenado and Goldschmidt are not going to get hit every at bat. Harrison Bader and Tyler O'Neill are not going to catch everything that goes in the outfield, although they will come close. It's not going to happen, So it's crazy, and I think some of it speaks to the passion of the fan base, but there are some out there that it goes a little beyond passion. It's just nitpicking, and
everybody's gonna have a bad day. I mean,
yeah.
Period. It is what it is. So it's when you string those bad days together that it matters, or the good days together that matters. Right. All it takes one hitter there or there, and you're a 300 hitter and you're a Hall of Famer. As the great baseball player said, one seeing eyes grounder, an eye with balls with eye, that was great, but again, the reason we love baseball, the reason we hate baseball is because of the statistics. We all love the numbers. We hate the numbers. Oh, yeah. And so, but you had to have a long string of numbers to make it really count.
Right. I was hoping that, obviously, again, it's not the end of the world, but was hoping, I said, man, it'd be cool if the Cardinals could go on another 17-game win streak to start the season. That way you really get the lead up there. But I want to kind of go back to something that obviously we haven't talked about because we haven't been on in a couple weeks, but something that come out in social media about our former manager, Mike Shildt, and how he was brokenhearted about the Cardinals ordeal. And some of the details that came out of what he had to say, I didn't find totally shocking. I did think it was kind of weird that here he was expecting an extension. Mozeliak calls him up, and I could see him thinking an extension was going to happen. I mean, he was in the running for manager of the year twice, did win it once. Had another year on his deal, and nobody likes that, lingering over him. So he's thinking, I'm going to get an extension. And the first words out of Mozeliak's mouth is, Mike, this conversation is not going to go how you think it's going to go. And I'm sure that did deflate him. And he went on to say, like, his wife didn't even believe that this firing was going to take place, because obviously after the 17-game win streak, you get in the playoffs, you're not thinking that that's going to happen. Obviously it did, and he took the job of the commissioner's office and the San Diego Padres. I did find it weird that reading a Bernie Miklasz article and a few others that come out and said, without naming names, that they had heard that Shildt was getting in the face of several Cardinal coaches, and it was so off-putting that it was causing friction among the entire coaching staff. I can tell you they panned to the dugout a lot, but I didn't really see it much. I'm not sure they're going to zone in while Shilt's over there, like maybe chewing Maddox's ass or Jeff Albert's ass over something. But if that was the case, and Mozeliak still, won't talk about it, and why should he? What's done is done. He doesn't want to throw him under the bus because he doesn't want to hurt his chances of, getting another job somewhere. But I thought that to be kind of out of character, because what we saw from Shildt was a very, what I call a lame post-game interview where he's doing the whole tip of the cat, golly gee, we tried. So if that's the attitude he's given after a loss, I can't imagine he's in the dugout telling Willie McGee, kiss my ass, Willie, or I just can't see that happening. But if Miklasz said it and a few other people said it, there has to be some truth to it, and the fact that we did retain pretty well every other coach other than him. So what say you on that? I mean, do you find that hard to believe?
Well, the biggest thing was, like you said, is that when they hit the 17-game win streak last year, I had read an article to you guys. I found it and showed to you guys and told you that some of the players were coming out and saying, we stopped listening to Shildt. They were listening to Alberts. They were finally saying, we need to do what our hitting coach is saying, not what our manager's saying. And there was kind of disgruntled then. But then, with Bernie, who, love or hate Bernie, that kind of an ongoing thing between all of us. But for him to come out and say it the way he said it, there has to be some founded truth in that, because he's not going to throw himself out on that limb. And like you said, what does Mozeliak or DeWalt or any of those guys have to say? They're not going to come out and say, yeah, we tolerated this maniac for 3 years or 2.5 years and put our players there. And then we fired the guy that was, like you said, a one-time manager of the year and a second runner-up or whatever you want to call it, second loser, whatever. But again, there had to be some reason that a guy wins that many games and he's gone. But yet, how did we not win all season? Then we hit that 17-game win streak. That's what didn't make sense at the time to us, any of us. We talked about it. That it seemed like we couldn't put 3 wins together to start a streak. Then all once we can't lose, and we're beating the Padres and people like that. It's not like they're lame teams. It's like, what the hell happened? Who turned the switch on? Something had to change. And so it did make sense. But again, we don't know what's said behind closed doors. And, nobody ever believed that some people are serial killers live right next door to you either, and I'm not saying the guy's a serial killer.
Ironically, that was kind of the thing I was going to point out, was because of the post-game interviews being that way, he did come across like the
boy next door.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I know we did.
We said that. Yeah.
Yeah. I know we did see the video that Rosarena leaked on their post game where he got fired up, and that was a different side to Schilt, where I'm like, I've seen him chew umpires' asses before, and I liked it. I liked the fire that he showed. I liked that whole that pumping up your thing. I didn't like that it got leaked, but I like seeing that side of him, because I'm like, okay, he's not just in there like rubbing their shoulders and being like, hey, good job. But it did kind of take me off guard to hear that he was like in the coaching staff's face, because I'm like, we also heard there was some friction maybe on the fact he wanted Mozeliak to go out and make more moves than what he did early on when they were struggling with the pitchers, and then to go get like J.A. Happ and John Lester, which were good moves. But at the time, I mean, even we kind of questioned, damn,
we gave up.
Right. Are these moves that are really going to help us out? They ultimately did. But maybe Schilt went up to him during that time, and that might have been what really ruffled feathers with Mo, and been like, if you want to win, Carlos ain't it, and we need somebody to be, in here. Who knows?
We seen when, Chocolate was here and La Russa, they worked together. That was a tandem, and they would sit down and they would say, okay, this is the guy I want, this guy I don't want. But La Russa had been in the league for 20 years before he came to St. Louis. So it wasn't like he's a brand new manager making, hey, here's what I want demands. Right. And so I think that's a big difference. But again, the Bill Purcell, the tuna, if I'm going to have to bake the cake, I want a shot for the groceries, that kind of a thing too. Yeah. And again, the ultimate responsibility comes down to the manager, and so I can see his side of that a little bit. But, like you said, Randy Rosarena, that coming out, that video, that had a lot to do with it. It said a lot right there. How do we know he didn't have other videos? Right. Maybe there were other mishaps where he was going off, and like you said, a McGee or somebody like that. And, Mozeliak probably went to McGee and those guys, the veterans, and asked them, hey, you're here with this guy every day. What do you think? Is it Alberts or is it Schilt? Which guy's got to go? But the other thing about it that really strikes a lot of semblance or credence to what Bernie said was no team really interviewed the guy.
Yeah.
I mean, he really didn't. I mean, he got passed over by everybody. And like you said, he was a manager of the year and he's a runner-up the second year. He's only been in the league 2.5 years. So, and he had a 17-game win streak to end the season and with dumpster diving pitchers, And right. So you would have thought, the Mets in their dysfunctional world, they would have went, but, they were still dealing with the Carlos Beltran crap and all that at the time, and Joey Cora and all that. But there had to be, why didn't a Texas Rangers or somebody, like that? Hey, let's take a look at this guy. Arizona, we've seen how dysfunctional they are out there. But right. So there's too much, the old saying, there's too much smoke not to be a fire somewhere. And he was the guy who got fired.
Yeah, I was gonna say with Bob Melvin going to the Padres, I really thought Schilt to the A's would have made a
That's
lot
what
of
I
sense.
thought.
But that team's rebuilding. There's no pressure on you to win right now. You're a player's coach supposedly. I mean, who knows? But I didn't think for a chance in hell that he would be New York. That media would have ate his ass alive if he come in weak sauce on. Well, golly,
Opie got slaughtered.
yeah, yeah, that wouldn't happen.
They
But
put Opie's head on the pedestal outside Shea.
but kudos to Schilt for getting the job that he's got, and to Mozeliak for not opening this can of worms, moving forward with it, because it does no good. I mean, he's not the manager of the Cardinals anymore. Ali Marmol is. That needs to be where the focus is. A couple former Cardinals that we were kind of at least pulling for to make their teams because they got signed to minor league deals as Matt Carpenter and Carlos Martinez. Neither one made the opening day roster. I think Carpenter's, probably got a longer shot than Carlos. I think Carlos will get called up before Matt Carpenter does. But I do hope that both of them, before the season's over, get that opportunity.
I think Matt's the only person that hasn't come to reality yet that his career's probably over. I could see him being a coach or something, being down there in Texas where his alma mater is, and end up as a coach someplace. And hopefully it's not a hitting coach because we know he can't do that anymore. No, just kidding. And I'm a Matt Carpenter fan, that. But
yeah.
I think the biggest change happened there was when they moved him from leadoff to the 3-hole. I think it screwed with his head. And then the shift happened and everything else went to hell on the guy. But hell, next year he could be an all-star. Hell, do away the shift next year. Hell, he come back and you crank it up again next year. Who knows?
That's what I was thinking this year. I thought the banning shift would happen this year, and he would come out and be lights out. But Carlos, a lot younger than Carpenter. I think he's got a better opportunity to do more with his career. Obviously, he's head case Carlos, and that's not making fun of mental illness. That's not trying to make light of anything. It's, I think him being younger, there's more of an opportunity there. Carpenter is what he is, and I don't think, like you said, he was in his head from the shift on a lot of it. But at the same time, he went up there with a mentality, and I said this for the last 3 years, he would rather walk than get a hit because he was that unconfident that he couldn't get a hit. So he's like, I'm just going to take these pitches. Half the time he shouldn't even have took a bat with him to the batter's box. And that was sad to see because here was a guy that had put the Cardinals on his back, carried them, done everything, played every position for them. I think it broke him. I think they broke him.
And with Carlos, I think it all comes down to the right person getting in Carlos's head and in Carlos's friendship or whatever. Because I think Carlos is lacking that mentorship. I think something happened there that, again, we don't know what the Oscar Tavares thing did to him and the divorce, all that stuff. That's a lot of pressure on a young kid. And the other thing, like we said before, being from a foreign country coming here and, you're given the keys to the world in financial, you got all this money just sitting there, nothing to do. And then on top of that, you get a lot of free time after and before games. And I think right now, he needs somebody, a mentor that, hey, you could be that star still. You're young enough. You could still recover from this, and I hate to say this, but I think a good fit for him would be a Dusty Baker. Dusty Baker's got that mentor ability with a lot of players. And I mean, as a pitcher, he'd use him up and discard him. But other than that, he would at least teach him something about the game and help him out. But I don't know. With Carlos, I think Carlos has to realize it's Carlos that is Carlos's problem.
Right. And I know you and I can speak to the rest of our admin and moderator group and, just a lot of fans in general, just because we say Carlos is, in his own head about things, or just because we say that Matt Carpenter refused to do certain things, that's our opinion. It's not to be disrespectful to them or to make light of any personal issues that they're going through. I'll say this as we kind of get ready to wrap up the show that, here recently there was some news that come out about Albert Pujols and his wife that took our group by storm, where everybody had an opinion on, things that only Albert and his wife knew about. But Pujols, it came out via his, I don't know if it was his agent or whoever had kind of said, get ahead of this. Yeah, his publicist, and said, get ahead of this. And so he explained that, him and his wife, after however many years of marriage,
22 years, yeah.
I believe, yeah, that they were calling it quits, and this wasn't something that had happened overnight. It was, kind of over a course of time, and then wanted privacy to be respected. And a few days later, she come out and was really supportive in Albert and give a really good message on, I believe it was Instagram. But prior to that, she had brain surgery, and we all thought it was a little odd that Pujols was playing in his first spring training game and missing that. So I think everything kind of had built up. But when you're seeing these articles from TMZ or what Bob Nightingale on Twitter and all these people were not doing it to cause the drama. It was Pujols literally wanted to get this out because it didn't need to hang over the club or anything like that. And when people, and I try to express this in a post, when people posted about it, that's what they were doing, is sharing the news of it. Now, if you're coming in with an angle of, well, how could he leave her, or how could she leave him, or she's the reason he wanted out of St. Louis, there may be truth to that, some of that, and there may not. But it is not our place to do that. And I wouldn't do that. It's him saying what he said was not to, it wasn't for attention. It was literally to get out ahead of it and express what was happening. So I hated to see so many of our fans jump on that as like, oh my God, let's get off on this drama and start pointing fingers. And that's a private matter that we respect his privacy by not doing what they were doing. We brought it up as posting on the page and talking about it now because it's news, not the reasons behind it.
Well, first, a lot of those people that jumped on that were the Albert left for money crowd anyway. So they're gonna nitpick it to death anyway. It didn't matter. And like my grandfather always said, there's three sides to every story: his, hers, and the truth.
Yeah.
And we don't know. We've not been there. We've seen both sides in the paper. Her blowing up about the management of St. Louis when they left and all that. Then she blew up about Anaheim LA letting him go. So we've seen that as well. So we've seen the ugliness of Deidre. We've seen the ugliness of divorce. We've seen it all. It's none of our business. All it was simply, hey, before this gets out of hand, here's our side. We still care about each other. And we've mutually agreed our best interest is to move ahead forward in our lives without each other. And they both put in there about their religion and how they believe in God, and they're going to go their separate ways after many months of prayers and trying to figure it out. And I'm sure they've gone through counseling and everything else. Because again, the biggest thing that a lot of us will not remember is she can get half of everything he owns. The man's got a lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
So this is a huge decision. This is not he went out and slept with some floozy one night and, hey, I'm going to give her $200 million to go my merry way.
Right.
Or maybe it is. I don't know. Again, it's none of my business. I don't care one way or the other.
So you're not saying that's why he took a $2.5 million deal this year, because he's like, fuck it, she's getting half anyway. Just only give me $2.5 million.
That's right, yeah. Just here you go. That'll push her over the tax bracket in Missouri. That'll teach her. But again, it's I watch baseball. We realize that their private lives do intermingle. The Jim Edmonds stories a couple years ago, how that all happened with him and the girlfriends and the wife and all that. We get it. And then of course, our favorite outfielder that we shipped off to Atlanta and all this situation he got into.
Yeah.
And but again, we realize that they are people. And even like we said with Matt and Carlos, we can't go as far as judging who they are as people. We can only judge their gameplay and how it appears to us, and like you said, we said last show, Carlos would be out, partying or whatever after a big loss. And that didn't set well with fans. But again, I will say, this is just their job. If you have a shitty day at work and you go home and kick the dog and smack the wife, nobody reports it on the front page of the paper unless you're arrested.
Yeah.
But these guys, if they cross the line illegally, it's front page paper.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what people have to keep in mind. So, again, from us here, we wish, nothing but the best for either him or her, if that's what their decisions are, because it is their personal life.
Yeah.
And even with Carlos and Matt, we want nothing but the best for the two of them. We love them both because they are Cardinals for life, whether we like where they're at in their lives now or not. So again, it's you and I sitting here giving our opinions. That's all it is. I'm not an expert. You're not an expert. Neither one's getting paid. The big bucks. Like we told our moderators, we should be getting paid for moderation. I said, okay, tell you what, pay raise. Everybody gets double what we got yesterday.
Yeah.
We don't get nothing yesterday. We're getting double nothing today. Right. So, and guess what? Some guy sucked me into this group 7 years ago, and I used to have a lot of hair that wasn't gray, and you didn't have a beard then.
Yeah, and look at all those gray.
And so that's just the biggest thing I wish that our group would understand is that, treat each other the way you want to be treated, and it comes out well. And I realize I make those smart ass comments, and I do instigate at times, but it's in fun. I'm not trying to belittle anybody. I'm not trying to hurt anybody's feelings. It's trying to be lighthearted, and that's what we try to do here as well. We give our opinions, we try to tell jokes, and we have a good time about it, because who wants to watch, the Mets and the Yankees every day?
Yeah. Oh. And the cool thing too about, the group of the Facebook group and page, we talked about that the other day, that we're getting close to 50,000 members. On one hand, we get some members that are like, I wish it was smaller again. To me, I like that we're reaching fans that otherwise we would never know some of these great, people that we form friendships with, so it's been a really cool experience. On the flip side of that, there's only so many hours in the day, and there's 8 of us admin mods. So it's one of those things where there's not enough hours a day for us to babysit every comment, every post. And some people, they don't just do the playful jabs like what you're talking about. They go to the extreme and they get, belligerent. And that's when, we've got to step in, not being on a power trip, and, kind of get in the middle of that. But between the group of almost 50,000, the page, we started that 7 years ago, and we're at, 70,000 followers. That's just unbelievable to me. We joke about what the attendance was at Busch Stadium on opening day, and to know that our group could have went and filled it and, Ballpark Village, it's pretty effing nuts, man.
It is nuts. For considering the reason we're here to begin with is because we left other groups we didn't like, and those groups have fallen by the wayside, or they're like, 400 or 500 people now. That's the thing that's funny is because we don't know anything. But, I always say that if you think you're having a bad day, you should be a moderator in our group. No shit. I've had my life threatened.
Me too.
Because I've removed a post. So stop and think about that for a minute. Over a Facebook post, somebody threatened to come to my house and beat me up. Right. They don't realize I'm 6 foot, 300 pounds, and I carry lots of guns. But hey, welcome to come see me anytime you want. Right. Just kidding. I don't promote violence. I don't run away from it either. But hey, no. But all in all, really, you go to the ballpark and you see Miss Gordon and all those people, and they're fun. It is a great time. And like you said, I mean, you and I weren't friends before really coming here. Right. You asked me to help moderate at the time, yep. And I came from another group as well. We weren't friends. We didn't know each other. And now I wouldn't have anybody as a brother other than you, man. I mean, that's how it is. And even, Jared, Boyd, and Zach, and Dustin, and Matt, and, those guys, that's the thing. I mean, now I wish a lot of our fans could see just our moderator group discussions. We talk more baseball there than we do anyplace else anymore, because we can't post because we get so berated by everybody. So it's kind of weird. But, Chris has been carrying on the game threads and stuff. And it's really funny how little old ladies get hostile if that game thread's not up. That kills me, man. They're wanting to, where's Chris? Because I remember when you were sick, they were hitting me up going, where's Chris? Where's this? And I'm like, I don't know, dude. I don't do this game thread stuff. I don't know how to do this. I don't ever pin nothing. I post it. I want to hide. And then next thing I know, I got 200,000 people yelling at me. I don't know.
Yeah.
All in all, you know what? It's been a great 7 years. I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. I love the podcast. Hell, I remember 3 years ago, you begging me to come on. And I was like, nah, dude, I don't want no part of this, man. And now I look forward to it, bro.
That was a different time and different place, too. Situation's a lot more fun now than what it used to be.
We get to talk here. Me and you both get to talk on this.
Yeah. And people actually watch now. It's crazy how that works.
Yeah, and we don't even have to bring on a Hall of Famer or nothing.
Yeah, we only talk about the Cardinals. We don't talk about the Cubs or Star Wars either. But anyway, no, I think it's kind of crazy too. Like you said, if I don't get that game thread up, man, I'm getting hammered. Where is it? Where is it? But honestly, like I don't think we do get credit from the members of the group. That's like they thank us all the time for all the effort that we put into it. We don't do it for any braggadocious rights or anything. We
Send me
literally
money. Send me money, people.
yeah,
$1 each.
send us that damn money. But no, seriously, we enjoy it, and we live Cardinals baseball. I mean, it is our getaway from things, but we obsess over this shit in the off season. We're making moves on. Hey, who should we get? Should we even up until hey, should we get Sean Manaea? We were talking about that. Every other fan does it too.
Yes,
but
we should have.
We should have. But the group chat that we have, that's where a lot of our conversations do take place. And we do chime in the group here and there, but we kind of let that be, the members kind of doing their thing. We share our blog articles that me and Brad put out. We share the podcast that me and Larry and occasionally Jared when he's able to make it, when we put out yeah.
Who's she?
That's what he would have said. So.
I know. That's why I said it. We'll see if he watches this one now.
But the three of us, when we put a show, we put that out. When we write a blog article, we put that out, and we do that on the page in the group and on Twitter and stuff. So we do put out our content, and occasionally, some other stuff. But the group is it's full of passionate fans, and that's just been the beauty of it. And watching it grow, I do miss the small group too. Yeah. But I do miss it when it was small. But at the same time, we have met a ton of amazing people, and some that over the past few years have passed away and really been hard for us, like losing somebody you've known your whole life. And it's like, I know last year when we lost Kevin, and that really tore us up. It's like never got to meet the guy, but I felt like I knew him my whole life. And there's been several members of the group like that the other day when Dion got that home run, somebody put that heart warming post that they were with their uncle in the hospital, and it was a hospice situation, and he passed, took his last breath right after that home run. And it's like, man, that hits us, for that person to share it to our group, with other Cardinal fans, and to see those Cardinal fans come together, in support of like rest in peace, our prayers are with you. That helps, believe it or not. I know when we've been down on our luck and people pick us up with thoughts and prayers, we've got a lot of great people in Cardinals Nation 24/7. So that's well worth all the shitheads that we got to deal with.
I'm just here to sell everybody Medicare and life insurance, dude. Just call me. Give me.
That's the sponsor of this podcast.
American Senior Benefits at Terre Haute. We'll see. No, like you said, I mean, the thing is, it's always amazing is that when somebody does say, a lifelong grandfather or father passed away, you see the, thousands of posts that follow it. And that's the biggest thing I think gets to me is you see that and you think it, most people will just, glaze by and just go on by. But then you go back later and you look and you see how many post responses there are. And to me, I think that's the heartfelt Cardinal Nation that we all want. And that's what we join because, again, the best fans in baseball, we all know it's been overused. The fact that a lot of people will say, it's, Red Sox Nation or Cubs Nation or, whatever. Well, we're just a bunch of rednecks from the Midwest and just now, having a good time. But again, we do care about each other and, and the human beings that we are. We don't care about the race, the religion, or the color, or the skin, or any of that. And we don't care what anybody says that, they want to call us out or whatever on this page. We treat each other as baseball fans but as human beings. And we have to keep that first and foremost. So when you're having a bad day and you feel like you got to come in and yell at somebody, inbox me, message and scream at me. I don't care. I'll block you like I do everybody else. I probably have more people blocked than I do as friends anymore because I have that many people who hate me. And I don't know why. I'm a lovable guy. I mean, how could you not love me? I'm a legend. Come on.
Exactly. There you go.
I am the best insurance guy in the world.
On that note, which is all true. It's all true. But, the Cardinals, by the time we get this out, hopefully we get it out before tomorrow's game. But if not, tomorrow the Cardinals. Yeah, so the Cardinals do wrap up their series tomorrow at 1:15 against the Pittsburgh Pirates. Hopefully, we can, not split and take that, series. We do have a 2-game set with the Royals, afterwards that should be cakewalk too, but that seems to be those two are the teams that give us fits. So,
see who the starter is for Game 1 against the Royals.
Yeah, I did see that. Yeah, but hopefully, everybody enjoyed this show. We apologize again that it took us a couple weeks to get it out, but we did have some very serious matters. So we will get back into doing this weekly, and hopefully we can get some of the guys on with us to talk some ball. But if not, you're going to be stuck with the bearded dragon and the living legend, and we're all right with that. So
there you go.
Yeah, but again, appreciate everybody that's tuned in and supports us on all of our platforms. We do encourage people to check us out on the YouTube channel. You can also go over to cardinalsnation247.com. You can catch our weekly show along with a lot of blog content. Go over to our Facebook page. That's where we've got over 70,000 followers. We share our work as well as some of the Post-Dispatch and, Bali Sports Network highlight videos. We share all the Cardinals content there. Or join the Facebook group or as the fan forum where, like I said, it gets a little crazy, but you will not see a more passionate fan base. So, again, I thank everybody. And Larry, any final words before we wrap this one up, buddy?
Yeah, check out the blogs, man. You and Brad are nailing it, dude. You guys are writing it out. All I got to say is, man, let's go Cardinals. Let's finish business tomorrow and head over to Kansas City, dude.
All right, man. Let's go Cards. Thanks, everybody.